What up? It's Fantasy Facts Machine. I'm Kev Lou. This is George, the Truth Factory Fuchs. Mark, the Sneaky Genius Nephless. We are talking running backs, and we are talking rookie running backs today. So, I think it's interesting because you can always hit a home run with a rookie running back, and it's always nice to be that guy that does, but you also have to be wary. So let's talk about some players that we have high on our list. Mark, who do you have on your list as far as one of the best rookies to pick up in the draft?
As far as situation, and it's got to be Najee Harris for me. He's basically the same profile as Le'Veon Bell, being plugged into the same system, but there are some concerns, as far as, him being number one is based purely on draft capital, how much they burned on him. They're going to use him. He's already penciled in as, the guy over there, 3-down guy. He proved he can do it in college. The only thing that makes me wary, he's going to get the workload, so that you don't got to worry about that. But the one thing is that offensive line is, completely rebuilt. It was bad last year, and that's the thing is a lot of the advanced metrics on Najee Harris shows that he's not the most efficient runner. You know what I mean? He really isn't. Like he's in a Ferrari offense last year at Alabama, where you know what I mean? Like they got so many things to worry about. You know what I mean? He was you know what I'm saying? And now he's going into a situation where obviously it's the NFL, it's the next level, and I'm a
little concerned. Like if Big Ben goes down, which probably will go down at some point. And they have, what's his name from Washington?
Mason Rudolph's the backup
Mason?
right
I thought,
now.
They got Dwayne Haskins over there, too.
Yeah, I thought Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah.
Or is it still Rudolph? Either way, I feel like their offense is just going to go straight into the gutter if Big Ben goes down, which is kind of weird because I'm not that huge on Big Ben this year. But I'm a little concerned about that because you throw a rookie into that position where he's not necessarily carrying the offense, but he's definitely one of the guys in that offense.
Yeah. And then he lacks, he's not a breakaway guy. He's not like a guy that's going to take it to the house. You know what I mean? He doesn't have elite speed, but he makes up for that in his receiving skills. They're even talking about lining him up, as a receiver, having him run routes, which is what they did with Le'Veon, And Le'Veon was the same. Le'Veon wasn't a guy that had top end speed and he was able to make it work.
Yeah.
So knew every cut in the book. Najee's more powerful. Probably not quite as polished yet, but Najee, as Mark said, you're not taking a guy in the first round and sitting him, especially with a team that had James Conner averaging 2.5 yards last year, Anthony McFarland. Like they need a running game, and they're going to focus on a running game, and Najee Harris is their running game. I'm sorry, Benny Snell. No offense to you. But.
Yeah, no, that's I agree with that. Who do you have on your radar as far as rookies other than Najee Harris?
There's a couple guys for sure. You got to look at Travis Etienne a little bit, right? Another first-round guy at the very end. A surprising first-round pick for sure, but he's got the rapport with Lawrence right away. I am a little concerned with what it's going to do to James Robinson this year, but Etienne's going to line up at receiver. Etienne's going to be eligible at running back, at wide receiver. He's going to get his carries. He's going to get his catches. Guy's explosive as all hell. Urban Meyer doesn't expect to win the Super Bowl by any means this year, but he wants to build an offense that's going to do something in a couple of years, and pretty clearly Travis Etienne's going to be a big part of that.
It's hard to figure out what their plan is for James Robinson. I can't imagine that they have much of a plan for him if they, took a running back in the first round, which is sometimes.
Well, ideally, we get a Chubb Hunt kind of situation, but who the hell knows what it's going to look like 2 weeks in.
And they got to worry about Robinson's pay because he was undrafted.
Yep.
So they don't got a lot invested in him. You know what I mean? Like they could
poor guy.
They could run him, and if
he'll get a job.
Yeah, he'll be fine. But like I said, for Jacksonville, like they could still go grab another running back because they didn't tie a bunch of their. You know what I mean? Like they didn't use. He's not a lot on the books for them.
Yeah, it's just amazing because to me, Robinson was one of the surprises of last season.
Oh yeah,
he just kind of came out of nowhere,
just a grinder.
Yeah, and was great. So I was surprised that they went with that.
But a lot of that too was he was getting a lot of passing work. That helped his value a lot.
Yeah.
Because I had him last year. Like, dude, a lot of his down games were saved by having 6 receptions for 40 yards and a touchdown.
Etienne's definitely going to hurt those stats.
Yeah, so that's the one thing.
Maybe Etienne's a guy you look for more in keepers or franchise, leagues like that, where I'm not sure how much value he's going to provide you this year. There's definitely going to be some dud weeks, I feel like. But looking, again, as we talked about, first round running backs, they're going to play. So.
Yep. I really like Javonte Williams. He's, he had a prolific season last year at North Carolina, and that was sharing time, basically playing half the game, and put up incredible numbers. He's got a fight on his hands with Melvin Gordon, but I think that they took him in the second round. He's only running back drafted in the second round. I think that they have a plan for him. I don't think they're huge on Melvin Gordon. I don't know, I could be wrong about that, but they got rid of Phillip Lindsay, so he's clearly the number 2, and I think by the second half of the season he'll be getting his fair share of carries and producing. So I like him. You could argue that his teammate from last year is going to do some things for the Jets.
Michael Carter's he's a bowling ball. I mean, he's just an explosive bowling ball, and he's, I'd rather be worried about Tevin Coleman as my backup as opposed to Melvin Gordon. Like, they paid Melvin Gordon almost $30 million.
Yeah.
The guy can't hold on to the ball anymore. He's definitely, trending downwards, but you're also committed to him. John Elway's got a job to keep, all things considered. So
yeah.
Michael Carter's a sleeper for sure. Like, I think he's the number 1 back. That Jets offense is trying to figure things out. They have no idea what they're going to look like. Zach Wilson looked terrible in the first game anybody saw him at, but that doesn't mean much right now. But
well, he showed up to camp late. That doesn't help.
That doesn't help much, for sure.
One of the curiosities of the season, but
Yeah.
Anybody else on your radar as far as rookies? It's interesting because there always is that James Robinson somewhere in the draft.
That pops up.
They don't always do it for the full season, but there'll be like
as
3 or 4 games.
As much as there's a James Robinson, just like how what's his name, Phillip Lindsay was James Robinson a couple years ago. There's also you also got to be worried about Javonte Williams becoming the next Royce Freeman, because that dude had so much damn hype coming out of Oregon. Was he a first rounder or a second round?
He was a second rounder.
Dude, the same thing. Denver burned a second round pick on him, and then that same year, Phillip Lindsay literally took his job as an undrafted guy. Like, you know what I mean? But you know what I mean. And that was the crazy part, is like everybody was so high on Royce Freeman, just like they're high on Williams.
It definitely
just goes to show that sometimes you know what I mean. Like, it don't matter what the tape show or none of that stuff.
Yeah, no, it definitely feels like Denver doesn't know what they're doing. Like,
it's
like
weird.
Their offense, they're changing quarterbacks, they're changing running backs, and they just seem like they've been all over the place the last 5-6 years.
Yeah,
I guess one guy we should definitely mention, probably the most important handcuff in fantasy football next year, Chuba Hubbard. I mean, he's the Carolina backup right now.
Yeah,
the guy was a Heisman contender before all the injuries and all that. But McCaffrey, as you said, like, they weren't serious injuries, they weren't career-ending or season-ending even by any means, but he is the backup. Mike Davis is gone.
And those nagging injuries, they can, he can sit out a game or two at any point in the season just to heal up.
Well, that's what they did last year. Is they weren't in playoff contention. It was just they have so much money tied into C-Mac. They'd rather just
every week he was like day to day, like game day decision. I was like, please let C-Mac play today. Nope, not.
And then
playing.
once they were like, they saw they weren't going anywhere, they just sat him and put him on the shelf. And so that's true. You know what I mean? Like, he's gonna get it all, because Mike Davis was a legit fantasy. You could plug him in. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see him this year in Atlanta.
I guess the last one would be Trey Sermon, who's also in a good situation. He's in a situation over at San Francisco where they're gonna run the ball. You know what I mean? All those backs back there get touches. You know what I mean? And
they have 3-star running backs every year somehow.
Yeah.
So next man up is always going on in San Francisco backfield.
And hopefully he can stay healthy. Because that's their issue over at San Francisco. These guys are always, it's like a freaking carousel of who's healthy and who's not. That's why they run through so many of them, because they're never they have to, is whether they want to or not. And Trey Sermon's a guy who, it's weird because he doesn't really have that like high top end speed, or he hasn't shown it on tape, or I don't think he ran in combine, and like Kyle Shanahan's whole zone blocking scheme is all about house calls, and that's why Mostert fits it so well. That's why he liked guys like Tevin Coleman, guys that burners, that guys that can one-cut guys.
Matt Breida.
Have they figured out who the number one is yet between Mostert?
I mean, it's in every ranking you're going to see outside of Fantasy Facts Machine, of course. Mostert and Sermon are right there. They legitimately don't know yet, so that makes it a little more difficult for us when we're drafting. But you know,
they even had
You kind of know both of them are going to
Jermichael Hasty. Remember Hasty had a couple games. They thought he was like mini beast mode or something. So that's what just shows like they all get burned over there at some
what's
point.
His name? Jeff
Wilson.
Yeah, Jeff Wilson.
You know what I mean?
He had like 3 games.
And the crazy thing is, if you would have plugged any of those guys in the day that they started, you would have gotten like 20 points from them.
Yeah.
It's just knowing when, you know what I mean? It was like a lot of it was so last minute, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Says something about their offense.
yeah.
All right, so there's our rookie preview. Those are the guys that we like. Appreciate you watching, and we will be discussing running back draft strategy on our next episode. Thanks a lot. This is Fantasy Facts Machine. This is Mark Neflis. I'm Kev Lou. George Fuchs. Appreciate it. Peace.
Set up my squad, wake up and pray.
Hey, aren't you supposed to say hit the like button?
Get out my way, I got sleepers to play. Shooting my shot and I seen who you waved. You waving the flag, I'm just chasing the bag. All my team special, we taking it back. Doing our dance while you blaming the draft. I'm a machine, just stating the facts. I'm a machine, just stating the facts. I'm a machine, just stating the facts. I'm a machine, just stating the facts.